my target.
Hostile tank.
Ladies and gentlemen, SideStrafe here with a look at the Armored Warfare Early Access. So the number one question that I've been receiving is, SideStrafe, is this game worth it? Is it worth me buying one of the Founders Packs? Is it worth me even keeping an eye on? Well, if you like World of Tanks style games, then the answer is absolutely yes. If you're looking for something more realistic or tactical, then perhaps not. But again, if you've spent a lot of time and perhaps even money on World of Tanks, then Armored Warfare is definitely set to compete with that title. However, some of you are probably thinking, well, I already have World of Tanks. Why do I need to play this game? Or why should I play both? And the answer is simply that, imagine if you were a game developer and you had the opportunity to take one of your favorite games and make it better, but in a different time frame. Well, that's what Armored Warfare is looking to do. Will it succeed at it? Well, time will tell. I can tell you right now, though, the foundation is pretty solid. It obviously has some bugs. It's not perfect. It's very early and incomplete, but I think with time, it could be a pretty solid title, especially from what we're seeing here. It's obvious that it could work. Now, one advantage, or perhaps even major advantage, that Obsidian has over Wargaming is the fact that it's dealing with a new or more modern game engine, CryEngine 3, and it is, of course, quite capable, but in the right hands. I've seen a lot of developers have a tough time with this engine, but from what I can see here, they're doing all right with it. Now, I don't see any optimizations yet. It is very early. Nothing is polished up. We don't really see too much multi-core CPU support or even SLI, but I think that that can come at a later date. Again, this is more so early alpha, meaning it's just time to add in features, and then polish will come later on, perhaps even in a beta phase. The thing with Wargaming's engine, which is called the Big World engine, is it seems like it's not very upgradable. World of Tanks has improved visually over the years, but it still seems to lack in terms of pure performance. We don't have any multi-core CPU or SLI, and for the most part, if you're in a dense urban environment within that title, you'll lose frames even on a beast system. And well, it's another reason I'm glad to see another game pop up within this genre, because as I always mention, competition breeds excellence. The more games within a specific genre, the more developers have to battle it out. The more they have to stay on their toes and improve themselves in order to compete with the competition. In this example, we've had Wargaming pretty much monopolizing this market for a very long time. War Thunder never ended up being much of a threat to them, but I think this one will be the one they'll have to look out for. Okay, so I want to go ahead and bring you into the garage for a little bit here. We're going to start out by looking at the dealer tech trees. This is actually a major component to this game, and probably where it differs the most from World of Tanks. Now, as you can see here, we've currently got 2 dealers. Obviously, there's room for more in the future, or these ones can, of course, expand as well. It gives them a great deal of flexibility. Now, one of the biggest issues that World of Tanks has had over the years is simply that they can't always add every single tank to the game, because sometimes tanks belong to a nation that doesn't have a large enough, well, tech tree of their own. Some nations simply aren't known for manufacturing mass quantities of vehicles or a variety of vehicle types. A lot of nations, of course, just purchase vehicles from other countries. And so you can see where the World of Tanks nation-style tech tree is flawed, especially in an arcade game. Here, you're pretty much a mercenary, and you're buying from arms dealers, and these arms dealers have purchased from various countries. Not that it makes 100% complete sense. Obviously, the United States isn't going to give up their tank technology. The same can be said for other nations as well. But it makes a little bit more sense in an arcade-style tank game. So the good news is, if your country has ever manufactured an armored vehicle within the appropriate time frame, then we might actually see it in-game without having to belong to an entire national tech tree. Moving right along, we've got some vehicle stat cards opened here. I do hope that we see 3D vehicle previews in the future, as well as armor or internal inspectors similar to that which is found within Gaijin's War Thunder. They did actually do a very good job of creating those systems That's all the compliment they'll get for today. But, you know, I would like to see something similar to that. Also, a test drive feature would be something I'd like to see. It is nice to kind of go in and test something out before you buy it. Obviously, we spend a lot of time and money on these games, whether it's, you know, grindable credits or real currency. We would like to test drive a lot of these vehicles before pulling the trigger on a purchase, especially if it's a premium tank. Here you can see some upgrade options for my M60 Patton Tank, and notice how things are a bit more simplified. You already have your main gun. You don't have to get a different gun to be effective, but there are ammo types that are perhaps a little bit better. Maybe you could see that as being similar, but it's just not nearly as expensive or time consuming. You're not going to have to purchase additional turrets or tracks in order to load these things, at least from what I've seen so far. And maybe they're taking a few more cues from War Thunder in this respect than World of Tanks. One of the biggest issues I think World of Tanks has is, of course, the fact that a stock tank is often apologizing in chat because, well, it's just going to be absolutely ineffective at anything because it's either too slow or just doesn't have adequate firepower to make a difference. Here's an example of how easy it is to manipulate the different ammunition types within the game. The UI is very clean, very easy to use, simple drag and drop interface here. You can bring a variety of consumables with you as well. It would also seem that you can bring even more ammo and consumables with you than you can in World of Tanks. So there are a lot of decisions that you need to make, and especially depending on how much money you want to spend. Obviously, there are some pieces of kit that are better than others, auto extinguishers versus manual, so on and so forth. Next up, we'll go ahead and take a look at the crew, and in a way, you'll see how the commander is a player character, and that would make a lot of sense because Obsidian is known for making RPGs, and so you really want to think twice about choosing who your commander is because they might provide you with bonuses that are exclusive to that commander. Again, this is going to have some RPG elements to it, so it'll be interesting. Think about your vehicle not just as a piece of military hardware, but as a player character of sorts, and your commander and your crew as a party, if you will. You can go ahead and purchase retraining if you've perhaps made a mistake or changed your mind. You can see here the crews as well are editable. You can change out their genders or just maybe looks in general. You've also got the ability to change their names, and I don't see anything that says that this costs anything. You can type in your own names. I don't see anything that says that they're going to charge you for it. I know that that's something that they charge you for in World of Tanks. I think it would be nice to not be billed or, you know, real currency for such changes, so I hope that that's going to stay that way. But you can see here each of the crew has a wide variety of abilities available to them, and in this game too, each crew member has their own voiceover. So when you're in the game, you hear your commander, your loader, the gunner, the driver. They all have a unique voice, male and female alike, and it's actually really cool. It makes you feel more like you're in a vehicle that has you know, multiple crew members. Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, with all of that said, we did spend a great deal of time in the garage, but it is a very important component to this game. We do spend a large percentage of our time and money in the garage interface, so I do think that it's worth looking at. But let's go ahead and get you back into some gameplay.
Driver, crank it. Affirmative. Gunner, scan for target. Affirmative. Loader, ready up. Up. Driver, move out. Loader, heat.
Alright, just another taste of the game's voiceover system. You can see that each crew member is represented, and a nice little touch, attention to detail, if you will. They didn't have to do it, but they did, and immersion is always key, whether the game is arcade or realistic. I think that it's nice that they did that. And on top of that, it even yells at you for friendly fire. So if you've hit something, it'll do something like, "Check your fire, you frackin' moron." Actually, it doesn't say that specifically, but hey, it should. And Obsidian, if you're looking for more voiceover talent, then I'm your man. Sounds in the game are actually pretty good. Some of the cannons, especially the auto cannons or the Bushmaster cannons, sound absolutely fantastic. I would say that hit or miss though. We all kind of agreed during live streams that some sounds are better than others. I think the engines are a bit generic. I would like to hear something a bit more potent. Obviously we know that engines, whether they're in cars or tanks or trucks, usually sound a bit more beefy than they do in a lot of video games. I think Gaijin did a pretty good job with their engines. I think that here we could maybe get a little bit more variety. Obviously it is early, but that's when you got to critique the game, when it's in development, not after, because you know that things are likely to get worked on if the appropriate criticism is delivered. So again, I think they're in the right direction. A lot of the sounds are good, but they can get better. Another thing I do think I need to bring up is the fact that yes, this game unfortunately does feature invisible tanks. It's not something that I like in a spotting system, especially if it's a first or third person shooter. I don't think I'll ever agree with it. I do understand that there are reasons for it. I'm just never going to be a fan of such a system. However, in Obsidian's defense, I will say that at least they give you a 6th sense likability, which you can see popping up right now, for free. You don't have to unlock this. You don't have to grind for it. All vehicles just automatically have it. So at very least, even though you're getting spotted by some tiny little vehicle out in the middle of the field, at least you know that you're getting spotted by that annoying son of a gun, and that you can do something about it. You can fall back or watch for the tracer fire and return. There are a few other things creeping their way into this game from World of Tanks. Ramming damage being severe might be one of them. I think falling damage and ramming damage in general need to be adjusted. I noticed that when I'm in my LAV moving and jump a bit of a hill, I take massive damage when I hit the ground. So I'm guessing that's something that just needs to be tweaked. I'm not a fan of ramming damage when we're talking about multi-ton armored vehicles, at least not as severe as it currently is in games. On top of the fact that you get rewarded for ramming kills in World of Tanks, I'm guessing the same will be here. Even though it's an arcade game, I guess I still want to believe that I'm in this multi-ton weapon of mass destruction, and then I shouldn't be harmed as easily as I am from ridiculous types of damage, you know, like bumping up against somebody and shaving off, you know, some hit points. I don't know. I guess that kind of takes me out of the game. It's still early. A lot can change. I don't want to spend too much time talking about it, but I just hope that we don't see too many things creep their way into this title from World of Tanks. But let's talk artillery. Before we go today, I don't have access to any right now. Obviously still early in this phase of testing, so I can't show you anything, and there's not really anything in this map, but it is a bit different, actually quite a bit different than what you'll find in World of Tanks, and I'm actually quite pleased with what I've seen so far. First of all, if you're a regular tank such as this M60, you will get a battery warning, kind of where the 6th sense little ability is popping up currently, telling you you're about to get fired upon by artillery, so you should probably move. It's very vague. It doesn't tell you where it's coming from, but it's there, and it helps give you some time to move out, perhaps survive. Okay, next up, the camera, the perspective, the viewing angle for the artillery piece is different as well. It's not a flat bird's eye view, so that helps there. And I think third and best of all is that if you are in an artillery piece, you will get a counter battery radar. Regular tanks don't have this, only artillery has this. Basically, when an artillery piece fires on the other team, a location will ping on the minimap, showing you approximately where this shot came from. Now, as that artillery piece continues to fire, that ping gets smaller or tightens so that you have an even better idea of where the shot is coming from. So if that artillery piece isn't playing smart and they're not shooting and scooting, if they're not moving out after their shots, then they're going to get obliterated by other artillery pieces. So what does all this mean? Artillery is busy fighting artillery instead of just sitting in the back of the map with a glass of lemonade terrorizing tankers until the end of the match where they're found out themselves. So thank you, Obsidian, for actually thinking about how to make your game fair and balanced. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I think part of the point of this video is to show you that we do need more games within specific genres. We can't have a developer monopolizing a market. We need them to know that there are threats out there, and we need them to know that it's not just about adding things that we have to pay for. that it's about making better gameplay in the free-to-play realm. So with that, I'm super excited to see another tank game. Even though it's not realistic, I think that Armored Warfare is going to be a fantastic title and something to keep wargaming on their toes. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I really hope that you've enjoyed today's look at the Armored Warfare Early Access. Stay tuned for more, as I will be monitoring its development. Hopefully this will become something that I can add to the channel on a regular basis. But again, thank you so very much for joining me. Always appreciate it, and I will definitely see you on the next one.